Thank you very much. So here we're here to talk about how trust tech is evolving, has been evolving during the last years, and it's going to evolve during the next years. We will be focusing on the trust tech challenges that are actually impacting the digital world. But first, let's do an intro round. Let's discover who do we have on the stage today. Tavi, do you want to start with an intro?
Yes, hello everyone. I'm Taavi Tamkivi, and I'm a co-founder and CEO of a company called Salve, and we're helping financial institutions to beat financial crime, to fight money laundering, fraud, and trust in that context. Banks' trust in their customers is super crucial in our business, definitely.
Christian.
So my name is Christian Schläger. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Build38, a company that is based partly in Munich and partly in Barcelona. We were here last year winning the most scalable award at South Summit. So we did some scaling since then, especially in trust tech, although it looks like AI is still the hotter topic than cybersecurity, where I'm a bit disappointed. But from my vita, working at Allianz, at Swiss Life, at G&D, and Ernst & Young, the main theme for all of these companies was trust. So I believe when founding a company in trust tech, you cannot go wrong, because everybody needs that trust, especially as tech is evolving.
And my name is Sébastien Viguet. I'm co-founder and CISO at Ears.io, a 7-year-old venture developing AI risk and model risk management platform and tool for our clients. Prior to this, both Jos and myself were quantitative analysts developing models for traders in dealing room of various banks around the world. Yeah.
Cool. Welcome to the panel. My name is Alberto. I'm going to be moderating this panel, and I work for GD Ventures. At GD Ventures, we have launched a fund of 50 million in 2022 to invest in trust tech companies from the C to Series B stages. So let's first establish some common ground about our understanding of trust tech. At GD Ventures, we defined trust tech as the set of technologies that actually secures and restores trust in society. As part of that, we think this is not only cybersecurity, but any kind of technology that promotes trust across all the layers of what we call the trust backbone. And the trust backbone has, in our opinion, 4 layers. One of them is the digital infrastructure, networks, servers, software applications, and this is the part that actually enables data exchange between parties. The second layer is the identity layer that ensures that authorized parties are participating in the transaction. Here we have technologies such as ID verification, SSI, and so on. The third layer is the regulatory layer. Here we have all the efforts done by governments to actually preserve the rights of the users participating in the transactions. And the fourth and last layer is the ethical one that is at the moment very well known because all these explainability AI companies and all this hype around Gen AI. And here are all the technologies that try to maintain and observe the basic values of the users that are not actually covered with the regulatory layer. So now we have a common understanding of the concept. I want to, just to make sure you understand the impact of trust tech, mention or quote a few news that we keep seeing in the media almost every month with the real impact of trust tech. So we have seen that, for example, Santander Bank was in March this year breached and hacked, and data of 30 million of their users was actually stolen. The same happened to Ticketmaster with data of more than 580 million users. Meta was also fined with 1.2 billion because of transferring data from European users to the US. So I think having a proper trust tech strategy is very important. These are extreme cases, the biggest cases we have seen, but they also apply to smaller companies, and it can be actually very bad news for some businesses. So my first question to the panelists could be, how important or how do you see the impact of trust tech, and do you have some examples of this kind of news in the industries where you guys are operating?
Yes, I can maybe start. Like as you mentioned, Santander Bank and actually failures that they've had. At the same time, I think as I'm coming from the financial sector and work a lot with the banks, I really see also that, especially here in Europe and also here in Spain, actually, many banks are taking proactive steps in order to build trust in their customers, and they tend to work with each other more and more closely when it comes to the crime fighting and identifying the people who are maybe not that trustworthy. So I really like your 4-layer description of the trust, like security networks and regulations and ID and people values and expectations. And actually in the financial sector, these 4 are quite closely combined together. So like in nowadays banks, as I said here in Spain as well, like they formed the ally where they agreed that they're going to exchange some information about their customers and high-risk transactions to prevent or to pick out the bad players from the network that they're actually serving, which means that actually good customers, good people can be trusted more thanks to the greater capabilities to identify the crime. So I think this kind of news we keep coming up, we see coming up here in also in Netherlands and in UK, where financial institutions who tend to be quite conservative, like most of the time actually, they can be also really innovative and proactive when it comes to the trust building and actually building up networks between themselves to gain the trust. So these are good examples that I see coming up.
What do you think, Christian, maybe from a more cybersecurity perspective?
Well, we have customers all over the place. We have customers in China, in LATAM, and in Europe, in all different industries, and it's always the same topic at its core. Yeah? Do I trust the device? Do I trust the user that is in front of me? And the best customer for us is someone who's aware of the problem, because he had an incident, and everybody had an incident, whether they knew it or not, that's a different question, but definitely they had an incident. And that has realized that that whole trust tech thing is not an easy thing to do, and it's not getting easier anyhow with the AIs now impersonating users. We had customers, well, our customers in the automotive sector, they at one point had so much fraud on the car keys, the digital car keys on the phones, that they set up new guidelines and new rules on how to secure that. This is when we came in, because they realized we need to trust the phone more than we trust our car, because the car is basically a stupid thing sitting in a garage without any online connectivity. But the phone that is coming to the car and wants to open it and drive around, this is the smart device. But this is the device that is the untrustworthiest device ever, because you don't know what the user is using. You don't know what has he installed or not, what kind of malware is on it, who's the identity on that. And this is a great use case for trust tech, that you are creating trust in an environment, zero trust they call it, not for a reason, to access then electric grid. We have customers there, automotive, cars, and all that stuff. So it's happening, and they're realizing they need to do something, and they cannot do it themselves. It's too complex by now.
How are they willing to find a solution like this, to open up and try to fix the problem? Is this one of the priorities for them, or
it's becoming a priority for them. The problem for us as a startup is more or less, are they trusting you as a startup? I mean, you're seeing we're all very trustworthy gentlemen with the shirts and everything. But that is the main problem, that we have a big enterprise that you want to have because of the ticket size and because of the money they are willing to and able to spend, that are looking at a startup to entrusting them with their most valuable data, customer data. And how do you bridge that gap from them saying, well, you're just a few guys and girls trying to do something in cyber and trust tech, to actually signing the check to tech and getting it. I'm not speaking about sales cycle anymore in my company. We're talking about time to trust. Because this is basically the thing, that they need to feel you, they need to realize that you're well-financed, for example, and are not going out of business in the next year, in order to trust their valuables with you.
Okay.
Just to echo on that, because like that's the need to build trust in ourselves as a company. That's, as you said, like that's common probably for all the businesses in our sector. And it reminded me, I used to work at Wise or TransferWise years ago, 10 years ago actually, when it was like one of the first unicorns, but also fintech startups. And over there we had to build trust in our end users and the consumers. Basically, consumers had to trust some strange startup to deliver their money from bank A to bank B in different country. And it was hard actually, because like for the fintech, but we had Richard Branson and all these famous names, and actually it was possible to build up gradually trust in consumers. But now I feel that actually building trust in the enterprises, or like in my case, like in large banks, or in your cases, the car manufacturers, that's even much more harder than building trust in consumers, and that's like where we need to invest through the security standards and like GDPR requirements and all the like conferences and shirts and everything. So that's a consistent discipline that we need to build actually, which is not anymore as easy as building just consumer-focused technologies, which is just be cool and fun and build high-quality stuff, and that works actually.
Sebastian, maybe your angle
I was a
from
bit quiet so far, so
cybersecurity and AI.
Yeah, so in our case, so what we try to build is trust in algorithms, right, in analytics, more generally speaking. And like from our background with Just, obviously we used to all kind of analytics, I mean like statistical models, all mathematical models. While today analytics is more around MLAI, I mean this is new hype, right? But they are both the same problem, right? And where we try to really bring confidence again and trust is in these analytics. So basically building tools to provide, and so some examples where this failed in the past. In the AI ML world, but we know plenty of examples, all of us. Some years ago, one example just like giving was about doing a search in Google about like some professional haircut, and then you would be given pictures of male of a given skin color, while if you look for unprofessional, then you would be given just women of a certain skin color, which was very unfair, obviously. If you now ask this type of question to like the Google chatbot lately, but you change a bit the question and you ask, can you give me pictures of, let's say, a German soldier around the 40-45 era? Then you would be provided with pictures of the Nazi uniform, but with people of different color skin. And this obviously is a historical mistake, most likely. So we can see that to some extent they kind of made the answer a bit more varied, or like introducing a better reaction, but yet in this context it's probably totally wrong. So, and this does not bring trust. So this is for like the new type of analytics. In the old side of analytics, in more traditional models, and because we focus a lot on financial institutions as well, the financial crisis of 2008 that originated from the US was largely based in the initial steps on wrong mathematical models, and I will not go into the details, but it was Gaussian copula, under-evaluating totally the occurrence of some events, leading to some undervalued or overvalued assets prices, which was giving the trust to the public that actually companies were worth lots of money, and eventually they were worth nothing. So complete lack of trust due to bad model governance and analytic governance. This is what we try to tackle.
Great. So let's look ahead and try to describe to the audience what do you think are the upcoming trust tech challenges that should be considered in different industries. Let's say that the most important ones that you think will be coming up, and actually you could help finding a solution for it. So maybe you can start, Christian, with that part.
So when I listen to our clients, what they are most afraid of and where they are asking for a solution, it is still the problem of identification, identifying devices, humans, versus intruders, fake IDs, fake assets, against that to make a decision whether or not to work with that individual or with that device. And that's the model that they are looking for, how to do that. But then the next step is, because it's getting so much complicated and complex to introduce new technologies in their workflows and in their business, they are looking for something that is easy to adopt and easy to integrate in that stuff, because we're not the first ones coming about security. You said 4 layers, yeah? So at least there are tons of companies in each layer that they can work with, and you need to fit in there. And they don't want to buy a solution for the problem of trusting devices or identities that is not compatible with what they already have. And it needs to be fast because they don't have the resources to manage it for them. So that's good for a SaaS company, always, yeah? A service that you deliver that is constantly updated for them, but you also need to make it super easy for them to integrate and work with it. And if you're not on top of the developments in the life cycle of developers and what tools they are using, then you're left behind, because this is not what our customers want. They want trust, but trust that is made so easy for them to use that basically they can save time, resources, and that it's working for real with all the systems that they already have in place.
I think one challenge that I'm actually seeing all the time, and I think it's going to continue in the future, it's the part of discovery in terms of assets, in terms of, for example, models that the company is using. What is your take on that? I think at Gilles you are also offering something like this, right?
Yeah, so discovery, this is a discussion we always have with our prospect or clients in the initial phases. How do they define models? This is something that varies a lot from bank to bank. You can define an addition as a model if you want, or you can define like ChatGPT as a model. So there are different type of. So this differs a lot, but eventually the practices around model governance do not change, whatever the type, right? So the same principle apply, let's say. No, when it comes to also this question, this challenge, to get back a bit more to the original question, the one of the challenges that I see myself, and that we discuss a lot as well in my role as a CISO, is actually how we want to build trust in analytics, in AI, and so on. And I'm focusing on cybersecurity within EELS. And actually, the two seems to be very related to one another. Like in many, they are interrelated. It's like AI is built on IT hardware and software assets. Mm-hmm. And so naturally, cybersecurity is in the pipeline to build this AI. And on the other side, AI can also help improving cybersecurity by providing advisory agents. I was at some big Google cloud provider event yesterday in Amsterdam. When you see what they can do with their new tools, Mandiant and so on, this seems amazing. And also when you include this AI as well in DDoS type of tools to detect new type of attacks. So the relation that exists between the two makes it such that if you want to consider the problem and simplify and look at the norms like ISO, whatever, NIST, that exist on one side, and the law that exists like the AI Act on the other side, and you want to look at them separately to simplify your life, that's fine. But actually, probably the problem is unique. They're both connected, and it would be worth actually identifying more precisely what these connections are, so that all companies can treat both problems, so AI risk management and cybersecurity at once.
Yeah, I think the same is happening with the identity and in the cloud space. Mm-hmm. Like you know which user could actually exploit the current rights that he or she has in different services, and then do a privilege escalation back to the admin role, right? Yeah. So it's, yeah. What do you think, Tavi?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on this, how to build trust and what's necessary for that. It reminded me of the discussion, like there are people who can understand and believe in algorithms and mathematics, and like blockchain technology is a great example where actually you tend to, like people who want to, they can tend to trust more mathematics. And the other end is actually trusting the regulators, like trusting central bank to hold your, like guarantee your money is safe, or trusting your national IT agency who is dealing with your centrally held ID database, which is like happening in Estonia. We have like virtual centralized ID hosted by the government, and we trust government in that. But actually it's like quite very culture specific, like in which countries or which regions or what type of people trust more the algorithms and mathematics, and where do you trust more the government and regulators. Because in this trust business, if we talk about like cybercrime or like fraud or money laundering, then like data protection, GDPR, then everywhere there is like some sort of regulation is happening, and it's our job as a trust tech company is actually to get the best out from this existing regulation, but also to help to drive it forward so that actually this regulation and the regulatory institutions would be actually helpful for the businesses and end users and wouldn't be stopping them, because like, again, here in Europe there's a lot of debate about GDPR, like does it help anyone or does it actually slow down the things? Same with the financial regulators, like people are worried that they cannot open the bank accounts for themselves or for the banks, so it sounds to be bad, but at the same time this is the best like the governments can do now to build our trust in our banks and financial institutions. So that's like ongoing debate and discussion, and in some areas we see that regulations are getting, in one hand, tougher, but they're getting also better in terms of like, for us as a consumers, end users, we can trust more these kind of centralized entities if the regulations are getting better. In some other hand, as you said, also like actually regulators are pulling back themselves, and actually we can trust more the algorithms and mathematics, which I'm also personally a greater fan of. And when you look outside of Europe, there is like the classical example that US being like very business-driven, and then like companies are building trust in themselves, not the government. And China, vice versa, is like controlling everything. So we're like culturally really, in my favorite part of the world is like, like here in Spain or up in Estonia where I live, actually we still tend to like appreciate the same values or the same human rights, which are like somehow consistent across the European continent. And that's why we can handle, we need to be able to handle this kind of regulatory hassle, which annoys sometimes maybe us.
No, I think you're right about the regulation piece. However, for us as a startup, there needs to be a business model as well in these regulations. One business model can be that I'm making regulation easier to comply with for my customers. And this is definitely something that you can do. And as I said, I was coming from Ernst & Young. They made a business all about Basel II and SOX and stuff and made great money of it. But then on the other side, you have examples like GDPR is a good one, where GDPR was coming out in May 2020, or got effective in May 2020. I was banking on that as a trust tech startup, thinking if you have fines in the amount of 4% of your revenue, if you're not respecting user data, there must be a huge demand for trust tech services. None of that happened. A lot of demand was there for lawyers and writing new terms and conditions on every website, but it did not realize, or I did not see it. Maybe I'm wrong, but for us, it was not a driver forward into more business because of that. So what I learned from the GDPR exam, that regulation definitely kicks, and is creating awareness, but in the end, we as trust techs need to make it, as you said, accessible and compliant, but also deliver something on top of that is creating a business value for our customers as well. So saying, okay, you're compliant with GDPR when you use our solution, you have a PSD2 compliance with that, you can go for a 27001 audit or whatever, but on top of that you get more information, you get more business out of the trust tech. And this is our, I think, from all of us, this is what we're good at, taking that as a trigger, then going in and providing not only compliance, but compliance plus trust in more value for the customer.
I completely agree with you. We hear almost every week when we invite startups to pitch that one of the drivers for their growth is regulation. And we always make the same face, like it cannot only be that. Another example is many companies are getting attacked with ransomware attacks, for example. It's not often said that they pay the amounts that are requested. In my opinion, they pay most of the times for it. So this is another angle, like you are helping companies to save some reputational damage, but also economical costs, right? What else do you think you guys from the trust tech angle can help companies with?
It was like, again, I remember like back in TransferWise when I was building up the compliance and AML products and operations and discipline, I had one single KPI for myself, which was like keep the founders out of the prison. And like every quarter I was just reporting that they're still not in prison, so I had a successful quarter. But actually that still feeds my current business right now, is that actually the CEOs of the banks and like chief risk officers of the institutions, actually they're not that much worried about operational costs of the huge compliance teams, and of course these costs are super high, but actually these people are worried about their own brand and like being free people actually, and like being able to work in the banking sector. And if their institution gets into trouble with a reason or maybe without a good reason, then they're in really, really deep problems personally. And actually risk mitigation, which is like really hard to put numbers like dollars or like euros next to these risk levels, but actually that's like personal risk of the dedicated roles. I think that's key driver, number one actually, which is driving that business. And cascading down into different teams and different sub-roles, of course there are other drivers as well, like the cost and efficiency and reputation of that, but it's, yeah, like personal risk mitigation and of the C-level people, I think that's one of the biggest drivers in our business. Not sure.
On this aspect, I think the new ISO norm, which I'm migrating my company to, the new version of the ISO 27001 norm, is actually putting more emphasis on non-tangible assets, and obviously brand and reputation are such non-tangible assets. So in this scope, we can see that the norms also adapt at times to the new situation of the world and to accommodate these type of issues, where basically we can then make specific these risks related to the reputation and the brand, and try to come with like mitigation plans for this as well, right? And it's more than just IS. It could be considered IS a bit, but still it's brand, so it's non-tangible asset. I find it nice move from the ISO bodies here at the moment in this scope. I think.
You were part of that committee, weren't you?
I was not.
Right. So maybe last question from my side to finalize this panel. So this is the first, it's actually the first year that South Summit has a track in the program that is called Trust Tech. So it looks like the concept is gaining some traction and importance. How do you see this evolving in the future as a priority for companies? Do you think it's going to become one of the first priorities for companies' budgets, or it's going to have a slower growth?
Are you asking for my business plan as an investor?
No.
Of course. No, I believe that the Trust Tech thing is on everybody's agenda, but more in the question of how can I trust in tech? And our answer is that you need tech for you to trust in new digital business, new technology that you are integrating in your corporate and in your processes for your customers and whatever. Because this is, as I said in the beginning, it's getting more and more complicated and complex to integrate on that and to have a knowledge and a feeling that you're still in control of that. Yeah? When you're integrating an AI model from someone that you have never seen into your company. I mean, the lady from SAP said they're doing that with OpenAI. Maybe they have the resources to understand what OpenAI is actually doing with that. But unless they're just trusting someone externally with their most crucial business processes. And it's our job to develop tech for them that they can trust in more AI, in more digital services, and still are in control about not going to prison, about still valuing the brand and all these goods. And this is why I believe it is definitely on every company's agenda, and it should be much more on the agenda for all the digital congresses and all the summits that we have about how are we going into the future, what are we using as new tech, but that always needs to be a trust in that tech, else it's useless for a company.
I think it's like, if you think about technology, innovation and development, that's a financial world, like I came just from the Money 2020, and like a huge effort that has gone into the new financial technologies. It's super great to see like things are progressing, and there's like development is like super high, like in terms of innovation, innovative new value which is being created. But unfortunately, for too long time, the trust, compliance, anti-crime, that has been like somewhere behind the door, and like people and companies haven't been investing enough to cope with this or to follow the progress of the technologies. And like what has happened is like actually technologies are maybe, new technologies are 10 times more developed than the trust tech, which means that actually people are suffering because of that. So we just need to invest more into like getting trust tech also into some reasonable level, but I don't want to make it to be the dominant part of this conference here, because I'm still a great fan of the newer technologies which are not dealing with trust, but which are dealing with actual greater value for the end users and end companies. But yeah, like in the current decade, maybe we need to follow up, and then we need to catch up. The trust tech has to catch up with other technologies to support it, actually.
All right.
And in 20 seconds, because I think we have all the time. Yes, so AI Act is coming. You asked us not to discuss about regulation, but yeah, this one is coming. It's being translated into national laws. So very soon, many companies will have to face it. And so where we see the urgency at the moment for us is to provide, as soon as possible, the best possible version of our tools and functionalities to lower the burden at the cheapest possible price for all these actors who will face the compliance to this AI Act. Yeah.
Great. Very well. Thank you, everyone, for participating in the panel and for your time. From GD Ventures, we will be releasing the European Trust Tech report during the next week, so feel free to reach out to me through LinkedIn directly. And yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.